Hi, Bhaskar. I think we're gonna get started now. Great. All right. I want to thank everyone here for joining me on this session today. This has been a very popular question I've received over the last 2 years on, what it means to take up newborn photography or child photography as a career. So this has been a long pending session that I've been wanting to do, and it just seemed like the right time to do it. So we decided to block today on the Sunday so that everyone can be accommodated on their day off. And the session was initially supposed to be on Zoom, but I think the numbers blew out of proportion. We had over 500 participants who wanted to be a part of it. So we decided to move it to an Instagram live session. We did have a nice presentation to show you and walk you through a whole bunch of things, but I'm going to be transferring all of that over here right now in just words, and I'll also take all of your questions that we can address and provide as honest answers as possible. Okay, all right, so to start off with, I want to talk about a quick introduction to Mommy Shots itself. Now, I've been a newborn and maternity photographer since 2013, officially since 2014. And when I started out, I barely remember anyone else doing this because I remember looking for friends in the same field to discuss the challenges I was facing on a day-to-day basis. Because I had a lot of people, a lot of our parents saying, no, we're not interested in doing newborn shoots, or no, it's kind of a taboo not to shoot the maternity phase. So I didn't know how to combat all of these things back in the day. And so I decided to figure my way out by trial and error. And that's what I did through the next 2 years until there was a very strong community that built and has grown ever since, right? Now that is how I started out. Today we're about 7 years old as a company. We're easily 9 members strong today. We're present in Chennai, Bangalore, and Singapore. We in fact cater to not just consumers, as in we don't just work with parents, but we work with a lot of brands as well and create content for them. This has blown into a let me say, a very steady and a reliable career for me, but it's very important for me to highlight all the challenges I've faced in this career path as well. So we are currently, like I said, a 9-member strong team. We've done over 1,600 shoots in over 10 countries. Our presence is mainly in India and Singapore, and we only travel to other countries based on assignments. Now, part of the conversation today was about how I became a newborn photographer. Truth be told, I have been doing this because I wanted to do something creative in my life. So I worked in a corporate job for about 7 years. I also, while I worked in a corporate job, I also wrote for magazines. I did a lot of theater. I did a lot of dance. I became a Zumba instructor, an aqua Zumba instructor as well. Then I went on to pursue my hobbies with kayaking. I even became a wedding choreographer at some point, and that just lasted about 3 months because I realized very quickly that I don't want to associate money with dance, which is my biggest passion. So I moved on to other things. So if you notice, I was constantly trying to chase a creative lifestyle while I had a corporate job. Now, at one point, I realized that it was important to choose one rabbit and not chase two. And I decided to go with photography because I was assisting a wedding photographer back in the day. And that exposure helped me understand what photography means to me. Once I discovered that, I realized that I didn't want to work with adults. I wanted to work with children. And it was a matter of a brainwave striking me that I could do something called child photography using the principles of what we call, I hate to say the word, but candid wedding photography today. I was making sure that I keep children comfortable in their environments, which is, at home, in a playground or wherever else. And I just captured them along the go. And that's how it all began. And today we are actually a very formal company offering very formal services with distinct goals in our photo shoots today, be it a posed studio shoot or a lifestyle shoot or something that's very raw and genuine. Now, the path to get here took a lot of effort, and that's what I'm here to spell out with all of you and maybe even start taking your questions. Now, when you think about what really inspired me, I think about all the sessions I've been doing so far, and I think about every session and how that actually came to me as an idea right? I think most of my inspiration really comes from children themselves. If you really sit down to listen to children, if you really observe them closely, they're telling you a lot of things, they're giving you a lot of hints. It's really about listening to what they have to tell you and using that in your own style, right? Now, let's come straight to the point, which is, why should you consider becoming a newborn photographer? In all of the online sessions and workshops I've done till today, I think the one recurring thing I've told everyone is do what you really, really love. And of course, we may love a lot of things today in our lives. We want to do 100 things in our lives, but child photography specifically requires a certain type of dedication, a new level of dedication, I must say, because your patience is going to be tested to a whole new level when you're a child photographer or a newborn photographer, and you should be able to withstand all of that. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you don't love photography and children enough, this may not necessarily be the best career option for you. It could be something you could pursue in your free time as a hobby, but I need you to really think about what it means for you. And that's why the session today. Now, I'm getting a lot of technical based questions about my gear and lighting and everything. I think I'll come to all of that very shortly, but because I want to address the bigger agenda of today's talk, which is, is newborn photography a good career option or not? And I'm slowly working myself there. So should you consider becoming a newborn photographer? I think it's important that you think about whether you have the patience for it, whether you have the threshold for it, whether you are willing to ace not just in photography alone, but also ace child psychology, understanding children, listening to them, becoming each one's best friend, respecting every newborn coming into your studio, respecting the trust and privilege the parents bestow upon you by giving you their child to work with and create beautiful memories for them. If all of these things don't come to you in a clear manner, you may want to rethink picking up newborn photography or child photography as a career option. When we think about careers and when we think about long term, I want you to picture if you can do this, that is going into a photo shoot every day with a new child, with a new requirement from the parents, with a whole new set of characteristics and traits to work with. I want you to picture doing this every day for the next 20 years. Because if you were to take a corporate job, that's exactly what you would be doing. You would be going into work every day for the next 20 years and doing something very similar to the specific role you take or role you pick up in a corporate job. So think about it on those lines. Think about not just the fact that it's an assured job, but also it's got its own ups and downs as you go along this journey. Today there's a certain trend that works. You may adapt to that trend, and it may work really well for you. 5 years from now, a certain trend may not last. There'll be a whole new trend. The question there is, can you adapt to a new trend and continue doing what you do based on what the market demands as well? When we talk about newborn photography or child photography as a career option, you want to think about reliability, you want to think about security, you want to think about what this means for you at the age of 45. Is this something that's going to be relevant to you, relevant to the market? Think about, where is photography headed? Technology is so advanced today that I think even a parent can pick up a camera and start taking really great pictures. So what does that mean for you? Is that going to be a threat? Is that going to not be a threat? How is it not going to be a threat? These are the questions that I wanted to really discuss with all of you today. Now, I'm seeing a very interesting question in line with what I'm sharing right now from Teeny Weeny Diaries. Did you register the company right away when you started to convince your parents? I think those are two different questions. It would be great if you guys leave me your name under your handle, because otherwise I'm going to address you as Teeny Weeny. All right, did I register the company right away? Yes, I did, but in my case, I was very certain I would find a way to make it work. The concept was very novel, was very new in India, and after I released the first photo shoot I did, there were lots of inquiries and a lot of demand for it. So I took those hints as a sign, as a positive sign, and I registered my company and I said, I'm going to find a way to make this work no matter what. And that's what I did. So I did register it. But should you be experimenting in this particular zone right now, if you're trying to figure, let me test it out and then come back to it, for sure, I think it's okay to wait out the registration until you start formally getting a lot of orders, and then you want to keep it as clean and as legal as possible when you're working. Now, to convince your parents, so teeny weeny diaries, I hope this one answers your question, but of course, I will tell you this very honestly. I was about 26, 27 when I started this company, and my parents weren't exactly jumping at the idea because I was doing very well in my corporate job. I was very happy actually doing what I did there. But because that whole creative bug was killing me inside and it was constantly pushing me to find something else apart from work, I realized that I had to address it. But with my parents, I think it was about really convincing them that there was a market here. I mean, everybody has children. Almost everybody has children. There are over 1 billion people in our country. There is a market. I just have to tap into it, educate the market really well about what I offer, and see if they take to it. They were willing to see me take the risk provided I was happy. But again, to be very honest with you, I think back in the day I was also walking a very safe line where I decided that in case this doesn't work in a year, I could perhaps go back to my corporate job, and I had a ton of experience in my corporate job anyway, so it wouldn't be too far out to go back. In retrospect, I think that when you decide to commit to an art like photography, having a safety net in the back of your head, thinking that, oh, if this fails, I'll go back to something else, that entire concept itself is wrong to me now. Because when you want to make the arts work for you, it doesn't make sense to have a backup plan. It's about really giving your 200%, really committing to the art. They say to become a master, you've got to put in 10,000 hours into a certain skill. You've got to go with that mindset and then jump into it. So I hope that helps answer your question. Parents may not necessarily jump at the idea unless you show them some amount of success and that they see that you're genuinely happy doing what you're doing. All right, gonna go on to my workflow. So I put down a couple of questions I think you can ask yourself if you want to be a child photographer. One is this really, really, really my interest? A great way to address that is by actually writing down child photography and then writing down the pros and cons of it. Be very honest with yourself, be extremely self-aware about both the pros and the cons. Put them down and see if they work for you. Each one of our situations are different. My situation may necessarily not work for you, and yours may not work for the person next to you. So be very honest about the pros and the cons you are thinking about while venturing into a whole new career. Now, second question, am I considering this because I think it's easy or because I really want to do it? And that's a fantastic question because I've seen a lot of people take up photography as also a side hustle. Now, I'm not against side hustles at all. I think that people can pursue two careers if they want to. I just feel like if you want to do it wholeheartedly and if you want to do it really well, you have to give it all your time. So the side hustle may only take you so far, may work as long as it works right now. But if you have to look at this long term as the single career, you have to get better at it. And in order to get better at it, you have to gain a lot of experience. And to gain experience, you need time because each shoot takes a lot of time. The editing part is another 50% of your job. That takes a lot of time. Then marketing your work is another big part of your job. So it's a vicious cycle you're going to get into. So if you want to do it well, I would say pick it out if you really want to pursue it and give it your all. Give it all your time. I'm seeing 100 questions pour in, which is great. We've got them all written down. We have Sana and Akshita and Subiksha taking down your questions and putting it down for me. So I'm going to address them in about 15 minutes. The next question. What is the education or training I need to really excel in newborn and child photography? Now, I can talk to you all about the school I built, but before that, I'll talk to you about my own experience when I started out. The only newborn and child photographers I knew back then were not in India. They were all in different countries. So I would sign up for online workshops. I would fly to their country, do a workshop and come back. but I did a ton of workshops. In fact, I still do workshops. I still sign up and learn from different people, because every new person teaches you something new. And I think it's imperative for you to actually sign up for workshops to understand this world better. Now, what does a workshop really do for you, right? It's easy to say, no, I'll stay home. I'll just watch their work on Instagram and then see how they're doing things and then figure it out from there. Now, I think that's fantastic. I mean, if you're super smart, go ahead, do that. But there's only so much you learn, because when you're actually doing things practically, you'll face a whole ton of challenges. And workshops are a great platform to clear all of those doubts. So always try and get some experience in, even 2 or 3 shoots before you sign up for a workshop. Unless it's a beginner's workshop where you don't need any prior experience. But these workshops are a great platform to answer all those questions you're having or the challenges you're facing. It's also a great and important way to understand how to interact with children, which not all of us have as a skill naturally. And it's also very, very important if you're venturing into newborn photography. The one thing I'm consistently talking about is safety in my own shoots, in my newborn photography workshops, in just any scenario where I'm taking a family to the beach even, right? I'm going to be wary about the child's safety at all times. And I have to think about that just as much as the parents, because in a shoot, we're really working very closely with the parents to bring out the best from their children, to give them beautiful memories. So it becomes our responsibility to make sure that the environment we pick is safe. These are little things that you will pick up in a workshop, and it's important. It's really, really important to go through workshops to learn this. Now, given all the challenges I've faced in the first couple of years of not knowing how to go about a certain thing, not knowing how to achieve that amazing image I saw online, I realized that there wasn't very direct content available on the internet, and I decided to just create that content myself and offer it to anyone who wants to get into the world of child photography. So during the pandemic, with the lockdown, I did have a lot of time on hand, so I created a whole platform called Learn. It's called Learn by Mommy Shots, and this is the account where you can find all our resources. I've created over 15 resources. We did a whole bunch of live workshops, which are now available as pre-recorded videos. We have a 10-part series teaching you everything about child photography, from when they're a newborn to when they're about 12 years of age. How do you deal with each of these age groups, how to work with each of them, how to befriend them, have them trust you, how to give them a great experience, how not to hassle a child, because that's so important that the child doesn't go back home crying, but is actually having a ball of a time in your shoot. If I was a parent and I take my child someplace and I see them having a great time, I would want to go back to that place with my child just to see them happy again. And that's exactly what I need you to think about. How do you make the entire family have a great time when you do this? All right, so hold on. So coming back to my point of workshops, they're imperative. It's important to use and learn as many resources as possible. There are a ton of resources available for free online. I have my YouTube channel. There are thousands of YouTube channels that you can learn literally anything from. It's all about your time, your passion, your dedication, and most of all, how much interest you have in this particular genre. Now, do I have the time to do this? And I think I spoke to you about this. Do you want to do this as a side hustle or a main job? I've addressed this point telling you that as a side hustle, this can only take you so far. As a main job, it can take you further along, because you're going to be giving it more time, which means more experience, which means more skill honing, and you just become a master at it over time. Now, I'm going to talk to you about one more thing, very important thing, which is the insights to what this field requires you to do. The first thing, and I see a lot of questions around this, is safety training. As I mentioned earlier, the workshops you sign up for, the people you learn from, will teach you safety as part of it. I go to the extent of thinking about, when I even use a public park, where I'm making the child sit. I check the floor before I make them sit down there, making sure there are no big red ants around there. I check to see if there's anything sharp that could hurt the child while the child moves. I'm thinking about everything the child can possibly do in a given scenario and making sure that there's no threat or harm given there. That's the amount of safety we're talking about for older children. For newborn babies, I think it's very important to understand whether there were any complications during the delivery, whether something that should be kept in mind. how you handle the baby, how you swaddle the baby, how tight is your swaddle, how loose is your swaddle. All of these things are very, very important. As I mentioned in the first 5 minutes of this talk, respecting your newborns is possibly the most important thing you do as a newborn photographer. So keep that in mind. The second insight I would talk about is the investment involved. And this is a very, very, very commonly heard question where everyone's asking me, how much should I save up for becoming a child photographer? How much should I set aside to invest in my camera? How much should I invest in my business? Now, the initial investments really depend on how far along you want to go. You don't have to make 100% investment on day one. You can make your investments in small bits, and as you go along, reinvest your profits back into the business and grow it along the way. Don't try to do everything together, because it's also important for you to understand what part of child photography you enjoy the most. I have friends in the industry who only strictly do lifestyle photography. They don't use any props, they don't have to buy any props for it, and they offer beautiful, natural, timeless moments with families at home. That's a huge offering we have for all our clients as well, when they are not exactly big fans of props. Now, we also cater to a huge audience that loves using props in their photo shoots, and so we make the investment in props, which is stored in our studio space. So, do you even need a studio is the next question you may ask me. I think at first it's important to experiment some more, to know fully and to be 100% sure that this is what you want to do for the rest of your life, and then decide to invest in a studio space. Yes, there are lots of pros with having a studio space. I get to experiment quite a bit in the studio. I get to try out things that maybe my clients don't ask me, but I enjoy doing in my own studio space rather than renting out a space. So I just think about the pros and cons in that sense and then decide my investments. Of course, your first initial investment will be the camera you purchase. Again, this is a big question, which camera do I purchase to begin with? Now, this will differ. It's a personal question because it differs from person to person. It differs on your budgets. It differs on whether you're doing this as a main profession or a side hustle. It differs if you're going to try this out for a year or you're already signing up that, hey, I'm going to do this in the long run. Keep all of these questions in mind and then decide your purchase. Because I can tell you to go in for the highest end camera on day one, but that may not necessarily solve or cater to your solution, because you're not looking at it as a full-time profession. So in that scenario, I would tell you, there are so many cameras out there in the market. It's important to be very comfortable with the one you purchase and not regret your purchase. So go ahead and rent out cameras. Rent them out, test them out, see what you're comfortable with. See if while editing, you'll actually see a lot of detail on your pictures and see if that's enough for you. See if it's catering to your specific requirement, and then decide it. I'm not going to sell you a certain camera here, but I'm going to tell you to buy what works for you. And in terms of reviews on cameras, I think there are over 1 million reviews on the internet for every camera that gets released. It's really about taking the time, understanding it, renting it out or borrowing it from a friend, testing it out, and then deciding to take that call. The other investments I can think of are, in your overall gear and equipment, the kind of system you use, the kind of lighting you use, just anything that may add to those numbers. Think about how much or how many overheads you want to deal with month on month. And this will only come with experience. These are not answers you're going to have on day one. Start with something simple. Start with borrowing a friend's camera, shooting your own kids, or your sister's kids, or your friend's kids, and start there. Then take it forward to the next question and move on. Now, we do have a lot of, we have something called the starter kit, which is available on the Learn platform, where we've pretty much listed out everything you possibly need to start out as a child photographer. If that's something of interest to you, you should definitely check out the product, because it lists out on a PDF and tells you what are the smartest investments to make in terms of versatile props, in terms of gear, in terms of lighting that you can do in the initial couple of months. We also have an Excel sheet with the pricing listed, so you don't have to look further and figure out what your numbers would be. And you can use that Excel sheet by eliminating and adding more things that you want to add and figure out what your total investment will look like. So do make sure you take a look at that product. Teeny Weeny Diaries again. Sorry, I'm coming back to her question because again, it makes sense to answer this now. Do you think it's okay to do free photo shoots at the beginning? I don't think you should do anything for free. And my advice would be is if you're starting out and you want to practice with someone, with your sister's kid or with your, say, your friend's child, I think it's fair that if you're going to do all the work required to make the initial investments to make that shoot happen in order to create some beautiful memories for the family, I think it's okay to offer them maybe 5 to 7 to 10 free pictures, and beyond that have them pay a small amount, a nominal amount, whatever that amount is to you. Because when you attach value to your product, you will be looked at with a lot more respect versus giving out free stuff. I'm not a big fan of free shoots, barter shoots. I'm not a big fan. So that's my advice, but you can take that as you will. But you do need a portfolio and you will need time from someone. So I think it's only fair that you do give them a few free photographs in exchange of their time and effort, and let them enjoy the benefits of that shoot. All right, going back to this. The other things you possibly need with getting into this field is very strong communication skills. Everything we do, from when the client picks up the phone to call us to the last piece of communication with them, which is our delivery of our pictures, communication is so vital. They should be able to ask you questions, so which means you need to be approachable. So the way you communicate matters right there, right up to the shoot date where, let me go back 2 steps, to the pre-consultation shoot that we do with all our clients. We talk them through what is going to happen on that day to give them clarity of what they can walk into, right to the day of the shoot where we actually make them feel very comfortable from the moment they come into the studio, or when we go over to their place, we make them feel comfortable with our presence, and then take the shoot along smoothly, walk them through what we're doing. It's, mutual respect. It's keeping them comfortable, keeping them, at peace with what you're about to do. And at the end of the day, making them have a good time. One thing that I heard a lot of my students tell me in my workshops were, Amrita, you're an extrovert. I'm not an extrovert. So how do I communicate with someone? So what I tried to do here was, the first advice I told them is, if you're signing up for a job like this that requires so much service, you will have to break out of the introvertism that you have. You will have to be a little more vocal. You will have to be a little more communicative, and that's pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. The second thing that I can tell you is, this was a big challenge for so many people. They're like, I don't know how to make my clients laugh. I don't know how to make them have a good time. I can talk to them, but I can't ensure them a great time. So we actually decided to create a product called Prompt Cards, which is opposing prompts, which is, what do you say to your clients in the midst of taking a shot or just before you take a shot? What are you actually saying to them to elicit a happy laugh, a funny reaction, a jump, anything? What are you saying? But those exact words that you say are what we offer you in our posing prompt cards, which is again available on Learn if you want to check it out. But communication is so vital to what really happens, because it's not just about a kid looking into the camera and smiling. It's much more than that. It's actually an established relationship between you and the family, or you and the subject that is getting captured by a camera. All right, going to the next one. Another insight into this would be the ability to think really quick. That is, to think on the spot. While you may go in with a plan into a photo shoot, things may not necessarily go as per plan. Children have a mind of their own. They're not necessarily going to cooperate with your plan or with what the parents want out of the shoot. They're going to do their own thing. They're going to tell you what their preferences are. Gosh, some baby personalities are so strong, they will refuse and tell you exactly what they're okay with and what they're not okay with. All you got to do at that point is work alongside them, work around them, figure out how to keep them comfortable, and still manage to get some amazing shots, right? Now, this ability to think on the spot, to think of 100 different things you can possibly do in a situation where the child is refusing to cooperate with your shot, that's a very, very strong skill you require in this profession. And for that, you will need tons and tons of patience and experience to be able to get there. Again, going back, the experience only comes with time. The time only comes with deciding if you want to do this full time versus a side hustle, and so on and so forth. You've heard that story before. The last thing is also, I mean, of course, the most obvious thing is being technically strong with your camera and putting in the hours of practice required. Now, when I assisted a friend with wedding photography back in the day, this was 2013, the one thing it really taught me was that while I was shooting a wedding live, I couldn't take my own sweet time to figure out my camera settings. If there's a moment happening in front of me, I've got to be prepared 100% to take that picture right then and there with the right settings. So wedding photography honestly taught me how to understand my camera better, how to handle my body better, the camera body better, and also work with the settings very, very quickly. Now, the speed or my growth acceleration as a wedding photographer and getting to know my camera better happened very quickly, because when you're on stage and a couple's getting married and they're exchanging garlands, you can't really fumble with your camera at that point. You want to be ready for the shot. So you've got to really push yourself to learn your camera well. And I would say you would need to learn just as well or even 10x faster when you're working with children, because with children, it's literally a fraction of a second that they're going to give you an expression or a smile, and you want to be ready. You don't want to miss it, right? So imagine how strong you need to be with your camera, with the technicalities involved, with, I don't know, maybe shooting outdoors in a park and you're ready to shoot, but then suddenly the sun comes out from behind a cloud and changes the light settings to be able to instantly change, increase your aperture, increase the shutter, and quickly take that picture. Requires hours and hours and hours of practice, and that's the level of technicality you require to be good at what you do. I hope that these insights have helped you realize that this is more than just a passion project or a hobby, but it requires so many different skills and so many facets to it to be skilled at, to be a good child photographer, right? Not just an average one, because nobody signs up to be average. All right. We're going to start with your questions very, very shortly. I just have another slide to go through. Now, when it comes to child photography, I think what's really important is understanding that you can't really push yourself to be an expert overnight. It's all going to take time, but you need to give it the time. And with time, you'll see a change. Every shoot you do has to be better than the last one. There has to be at least 2 pictures that speak for you and your improvement than the previous shoot you've done. While you're being professionally paid to take pictures for a family, your priority should be them and their memories and what's personal to them. But I do selfishly keep a 10% for myself to try something new. And I check with them. I'm like, are you okay? Can we try something different? And if they sign up for it, I'm ready to experiment right there. Right? As long as they give me time of day, the child's okay, and everything works alongside my plan to experiment. So think about how you want to proceed with this, but remember, you can't become an expert overnight. For anyone out there who thinks you can sign up for 5 workshops and just be, the queen of all, yes, maybe you understand what it takes to create a good picture, but it's a different ball game altogether to execute those skills all at once and create that picture successfully, and then also consistently, and then improving from there, because you may have learned to create a certain picture a certain way, but you will also have to improvise and create your own style beyond that, because otherwise you just become a part of the herd, and that's not who you are. Photography, I feel people really come to you not because of what you do, it's because of why you do it. And if your passion doesn't come through in your photographs, I think it just slips through the cracks right there. Okay, all right, I'm going to start taking questions, and we've got a whole bunch listed out here. Hold on. Wow, these are a lot of questions. We have Sana and Akshita sharing a lot of links for you just to our free YouTube videos, which are tutorials to answer a lot of the questions out here, so make sure you take a look at that. All right. Someone asked me about how to get your first paying client, and I think we have an entire YouTube video around it, so I'm not going to venture into the questions that have already been answered in our videos. So I have a question from Keerthi asking me, where do I get all my props from, and do I collaborate? So Kirti, the truth be told, I prefer having my own props, and I prefer not collaborating for that matter, because I just have my freedom to use it when I want to, wherever I find suitable. Whereas pushing a prop into a picture just because I have to meet the requirements of collaboration. And I think when you venture into collaborations, it's a win-win situation, but it has to also work for you and the baby. It's not just about you shooting it, but the baby accepting the prop, agreeing to sit in a prop, or sort of be comfortable in it. All of these things really play a big role. So I don't prefer collaborating, but I do tag all of my prop vendors just so people don't ask me separately on DMs as to where I got a certain prop. It just makes it a lot easier for me to tag them, and it also helps them in whatever way possible. So that's how I prefer going about it. I have actually made a YouTube video about the top 5 props I like to use. In fact, there are quite a few videos on my Reels as well as my YouTube talking about the top props I like to use and why I like to use them. They're also available on Instagram's IGTV if you're too lazy to go to YouTube. And okay, next question. This is a good question. It's by Ankana Chaudhary. After having the basic knowledge, gear, and all, what should be the initial approach to let people know what I'm doing? Okay, so Ankana, what I would tell you is that once you have the basic knowledge, once you have your gear in place, the first thing you could do is let people know what you do by sharing good work. Now, all of us can take a picture, but how do we take a good picture? Your first part, or your first step that you should take, is trying to perfect a picture, or perfect a portfolio of pictures which you can share out there, and that where your work can speak for you versus you trying to promote your work in whatever forms possible. There are tons of marketing tactics out there that you could use to promote your business, but a booking will really happen when your clients can see themselves, or picture themselves, or picture their baby in your pictures. So that's the strength of a photograph, right? That is the power of a photograph that you need to evolve to create. And that could be the first thing you could focus on. And that by itself is a huge task. So focus on creating good work once you've got all your basic knowledge and your gear. Going to the next question. Hold on. Okay, let me know about lighting. Should I go for natural light in the beginning or artificial? Okay, so I'll tell you my bit. I started out with natural lighting, also because I did not know too much about artificial lighting back in the day, and it was easy to use, but I had so many constraints around it because I was constantly cornered to shoot only when the sun was shining in the daytime. I could not shoot late evenings. I could not shoot if there was rain, and all the weather changes would really obstruct a lot of shoots. Imagine this: you clear a whole day out, you prepare 100 things, you have a vendor coming and setting up props, you have the works, the clients have gotten ready, they've got their hair and makeup done, they've brought their child all dressed up, and you're ready to shoot, but it rains. Now that's a total bummer. And when I faced that a couple of times, I realized I don't want to be put in a situation where I have to disappoint clients, because at some point, you can't really control at any point, you can't control the weather, but what you can do is come up with alternate solutions to shoot and make sure that everything goes as per plan. So that's when I decided to learn studio lighting, and this was about 4 years ago. And honestly, it's the best thing that happened to me. So if you have the choice to sign up for a lighting workshop, do it immediately, because it can help you solve so many problems that you will face with natural light. Do I like to use natural light versus artificial light? I'm okay with both, because I've found a way to make artificial light mimic exactly what natural light does for me, right? On a good day, if I have natural light, if everything's going as planned, I will stick to natural because it's lesser equipment, lesser hassle, but I would not completely depend on it. And if it's a day that's a little cloudy even, I wouldn't depend on it. Because for me, the quality of my pictures matters so much, and I don't ever want to use bad weather as an excuse to a poorly shot image. So that should answer your question about natural versus artificial. If you have the bandwidth, pick up artificial lighting skills immediately. When is my next workshop, Nitish? The next workshop is actually a maternity and lighting workshop specifically on the 25th and 26th of January. We just have one seat left. And we've made this a 2-day workshop, so it's a pretty intense workshop where day one we take you indoors to the studio. We show you all our lighting techniques for, with your maternity gowns, with fashion inspired maternity. We also have a lifestyle bedroom set up in our studio to get a lot of lifestyle shoots done there. So we're going to show you how to recreate natural light in a room that does not have any natural light and shoot lifestyle maternity portraits over there. And then day two will cover our entire editing style for indoor, outdoor, for lifestyle editing techniques. And then we're going to be taking you to an outdoor location, a beautiful farmhouse on ECR in Chennai. And we're going to be showing you how we work with setups, how we work with styling, with posing, and show you the works of shooting outdoors. Every student there is also going to be bringing their cameras, and they're going to be taking pictures as well for their portfolio from this workshop. So if you're interested, you can just reach out to us on our email address and tell us you're interested in signing up. We just have one seat left. I also want to announce our newborn photography workshop, which is happening in February. More details about that will be emailed to you shortly. And again, we're keeping a very tight cap on the number of newborns attendees because of the given pandemic. We want to keep things super safe. So more details on the newborn photography workshop also will be shared. But if you're looking to learn lighting, the maternity workshop in January 25th and 26th is ideal for you. Hold on. Okay, so there's a question about the lenses we use. Now, I've done a couple of videos on the kind of lenses I use or the gear I use, but what are the minimum lenses we need? Now, honestly, again, that's a very difficult question to answer because depending on what you're shooting, you will have to use a required lens for it. Now, if you're looking at a one-time purchase, a quick one, I'd say pick up the 24-70mm. It's a great lens. I don't really use zoom lenses myself, but I prefer my prime lenses. So if you're starting out and you want to make a one-time investment, the 24-70 is great because you have different focal lengths to work with right there. In my kit, what I have is a 35mm, a 24mm, a 55mm, one of my favorite and most versatile lenses, and 85mm for portraits, and a 135mm for portraits. So this is the variety I've slowly built up over time. I've not necessarily bought all of them together. I slowly added to my kit over a period of time, and those are the lenses I use. All right. The next question is, how do you manage competitors? It's such a good question, right? When you think about photography, in fact, this takes me back to my second, the second slide I was talking about and referring to what does signing up as a newborn photographer mean? Today, you can take newborn photography or child photography as a career, but 20 years from now, will it still be valid? Because I was talking about how technology has advanced and they made it so easy for you to pick up a DSLR and take a picture. Now, I think the bigger question here is, what do you do with competitors? Because we know that the barrier to entry in photography is really, really low. In fact, it doesn't even exist. There's no barrier. All you have to do is buy a camera, open a Facebook page or an Instagram page and call yourself a photographer and take a bunch of pictures. But there's a difference between just pictures and then good pictures, and then expertise and skill that's required alongside that. But here's the thing. The way I look at managing competitors or competition is that I just don't believe they exist. While that sounds a little cuckoo, that's really how I honestly operate, because when I picked up photography as a career option in 2014, it wasn't because it was a market I could, potentially earn on from. It was not about just financial goals. It was because I really wanted to do something creative with my life, and it was pure passion that led me to it. And absolute, my love for babies is immense, and which is why I wanted to, sort of combine babies and photography. But I did think about competition back then, and I'm like, okay, there could be a lot of people who could do this as well. So how do I change? Instead, I changed my approach or my mindset to believe that competition doesn't exist. The real competition is with yourself. Because if you, for a moment, stop thinking about what everyone else is doing, and you look at your work and you decide whether you like your work or not, that'll help you answer how much more you have to improve, correct? And when you focus on your improvement consistently, when you focus with 100%, you will forget what everybody else is doing around you, because you're going to just focus on improving a certain picture to make it better and better and better. Improve a certain skill to make it better. Example, one common question I'm going to pick from my workshops is, how do you know which lens to pick up and use for a certain shot? Now that's a skill you need to improve. And when you focus on this, it takes months and months and months, even years of practice to understand how to use a particular lens and in what occasions to use it. When you start focusing on this problem and trying to find a solution, you won't have time to think about what everybody else is doing. In fact, I would suggest that you just simply unfollow anyone's work that is uninspiring to you. Follow photographers whose work inspires you. The more you see good work, the better you get with things. Another thing that I would tell you with the whole competition thing is, everything's a trend. And if the more you look at what your competitors or your peers, I'd like to call them peers, what your peers are doing, the more you fall into the trap of just working with the trend. It becomes harder for you to innovate, to create something new, and look less at other people's work. Focus more on your work, on how you can get better and how you can create beautiful memories for your clients and how you can make the entire experience a lot more joyful. Find joy in this profession. Don't find competition. Don't find threats. Don't be threatened. This is an art form, and you should be able to do justice to it by doing good work in it rather than figuring out how to be number one. That's not the goal here. Going to the next question. Okay, this is by Binny Kapoor. What kind of system should we select when it comes to editing, since the pictures take a lot of space? Okay, so honestly, it's important to invest in good equipment for your editing, because I know what it's like to work with a really slow system. Been there in 2014 and changed ever since. So I'm using a MacBook Pro, and that works really well for me. And on an occasional day, it can be slow, but it's fast enough for me to get my work done on time, because you don't want your editing process to slow you down. So definitely invest in the top end equipment available out there today. A friend of mine, a friend that we all know, Joseph Radhik, actually started his own brand called Orange, which are these really small computers meant for photographers, for gamers, with the best possible configuration out there. So you could check that out as well. But when it comes to me, I use the MacBook Pro, and I even use the iPad Pro now for my editing on the go. The next question, is Mac better than Windows for editing? I would never be able to answer that question, because I switched from Windows to Mac a very long time ago. And I think this is again a personal preference. It depends on how much you want to customize for yourself. With the Mac, I can't really customize, and I don't want to, because it gives me what I need. But if you want to geek it out, nerd it out, then maybe Windows could be your thing to go to. Someone's asking me where I'm from. I'm from Chennai. I was born and raised here. I'm North Indian, but South Indian at heart. And yes, I work out of Bangalore and Chennai. Thank you for that question. Very late in the conversation. Okay, do we have any more questions? The best time to shoot a newborn. All right, the best time to shoot a newborn is the first 15 days. I think I've heard myself repeat this answer so many times, I can literally close my eyes and go, without thinking and answer it. It's best to shoot it within the first 15 days, but we all know that it's really hard to actually get a parent to come out in the first 15 days to your studio to do the shoot. For various reasons, moms need time to recover. The parents are, adjusting to a whole new world with their tiny in it, and it may not necessarily happen in the first 15 days, but what you can do is only suggest, offer, recommend, and then make do with whatever time they come to you. But I try not to take newborns after 45 to 50 days, because then it gets really hard to even give them variety. And think about it, it's also about how this impacts a newborn. At the age of 15 days and above, newborns learn to stretch. And if they come to you at the 50th day or the 55th day, we're actually going against nature and trying to push a newborn to fold their legs and get into a swaddle, which is not exactly the smartest thing to do. But if it's for a quick, short amount of time, it's okay, but not for a long period of time. So I educate the parents about this as well, and then check with them before I swaddle. So keep all of this in mind when you're thinking about the best time to shoot for a newborn. Ideally, best done within the first 30 days. All right, I've seen a lot of questions on how to price your sessions. Okay, this is one of my favorite questions. When we think about pricing for a session, and it shocks me to see some prices even because there is so much that goes behind conducting a photography session. All right, so I'm going to give you my own business as an example and talk to you about the number of investments that we make to create a beautiful environment, a safe environment to conduct a newborn shoot. We have a studio, we have a heater, we have a nice looking studio which is comfortable for a newborn and safe and clean and hygienic, right? Then there's all my gear, and then there are all these props we use, right? From wraps to outfits to headbands to the props to the baskets we use, to the fur blankets, to I'm thinking about the smallest of things, to little posing beans that we use, to the bean bag stand, to the lighting. I use Profoto lights. They are UV coated and are safe for newborns. So I'm using the highest end of lights available in the market to make this entire thing go smoothly. Now, think about all of these factors. So a smart thing to do is, hey, what is my cost to actually execute a shoot? Plus, what is the value I bring to the shoot? Your shoots actually pay for your life, your fees, your daily spending habits, for everything, right? Think about it from that angle and you'll have a whole different perspective on pricing for photo shoots. In fact, I should do a session specifically on pricing someday. We line that up for you. But think about cost, think about the value you bring, think about your entire lifestyle expenses involved to actually run your family, run your house, clear your bills. All of that put together goes into a breakdown which gives you a number for your photo shoots, right? Most people just think that, okay, if I cover the cost, that's enough. My time is free. They don't really consider any value to their time there, and that is not the right way to work because your time is important to you. I'm going to stop with the pricing question there because I think we should do a more detailed session around this. I'm going to go to the next one. Where did I first release my first photo shoot? 2014 was the time of Facebook, and I remember doing it there, and that's where I released my first photo shoot, and thankfully there was no looking back from then on. Okay, Tavi is asking about, what would be an approximate budget to get started? Tavi, as much as I'd love to give you a figure over here on live, let me tell you, it's going to be really hard for me to do it because it depends on the extent you are willing to enter this field. Are you looking to go full-fledged with the works, with a studio, with multiple studios, with all the props completely stocked 100%, with the best in line camera gear, with the best in line lights? What is it that you're looking to do? It all depends on that. But I would start by saying that your investment to begin would just be the cost of your DSLR. And apart from that, your time to learn how to use that well. So whatever the investment is for your camera, whichever camera you're going for, that's the first number to start with. All right, I'm going to start taking questions over here itself. I'm going to take another 5 to 10 minutes more and then we'll stop. Okay, someone's asking about tips for age groups 4 to 12. Okay, so this is something we cover in our workshop called Learn. It's an online pre-recorded video series. It's 10 series. I think each of those videos are close to about 90 minutes long. The first 45 minutes is just the video itself, where I talk about a certain topic, and the remaining 45 minutes are questions from the first batch of our Level Up participants. There were about 75 participants, so we had a ton of questions that were answered. The real value comes from those questions because those are the questions everybody else signs up with. So do check out our next batch of Level Up. We'll be starting in about 2 weeks, and we'll be opening registrations for that in about a day or two max. But I'm going to answer the question here as well. When you're dealing with children of different age groups, you have to think about the world they're in at that point of time. Now, honestly, I did have an advantage here. I have a twin niece and nephew. They're 13 now, but having seen them grow through the years, I understood what their thought process was like at the age of 2, at the age of 3, at the age of 4, how their interests changed over time, how they started growing up by the age of 6 and 7, and childish talk never worked for them. They wanted to be dealt with like adults, and even till date now they want to be dealt with like regular older adults. So I had that advantage to understand that, but I didn't stop just there. I did pick up a whole bunch of books. I read a whole bunch of articles online. I watched a whole bunch of YouTube videos to understand how to parent better. Now, there weren't any videos out there telling me how to deal with the 4-year-old in a photo shoot. So I looked up parenting tips instead. And that helped me understand different parenting styles. There are certain parents who want to raise their kids a certain way with a certain thought process. These styles, I mean, I'm not going to get into that, but the effort I took to learn different parenting tips and parenting styles helped me relate to kids better, helped me understand their psychology better, helped me understand how to talk to them. Simple conversation, simple communication. Like, I know for a fact that a 4-year-old will be really hooked on stories you have to tell them. With 6-year-olds, I'd love to show them magic tricks, but I'm terrible at magic. My trick always flops before the trick actually happens. But if you know a magic trick or two, you're going to grab a 6-year-old's attention in no time, or a 5-year-old's attention for that matter. With 8-year-olds, I talk to them like adults, but it's important for me to know in advance what their interests are. You know, is it crafts? Is it a particular show on TV? Is it Roblox? I mean, I have Roblox on my system right now and I'm playing it just so I can relate to 9 and 10-year-olds who are playing the game. So I spend my free time indulging in games like this, even PUBG before it was banned, just so I could keep a conversation going with older kids. So to answer your question, I wish I had an ABC kind of answer to you, but I would tell you it's important to get to know the interests and hobbies from the parents before you actually meet the child, and then speak their language. Speak to them about their interests, about their hobbies, and you'll have a much better connect there. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There is a lot more we share on the Level Up workshop itself. I think we can drop a link out here to the Level Up workshop details for anyone who's interested. Okay, I have one here from iClick Studio. I'm sorry I'm speaking so fast because I'm so passionate about this and I'm always just excited to talk about it. And I want to try and answer as many questions before we call it a day. Alright, so iClick Studio is asking me techniques to put the baby to sleep. Oh my god, I really wish you sign up for my newborn photography workshop, because we'll be teaching you so many different techniques to put the baby to sleep. And honestly, this could come right from the mom. The mom could tell you how the baby likes to go to sleep, and you could just try that. Or you could try the different techniques we show you in the workshop itself. But basically making sure that the temperature is the right temperature in the room. It shouldn't be too cold, it shouldn't be too warm, and making sure your baby is comfortable at all times. Even the slightest amount of discomfort for a newborn or for an older child, they don't keep quiet. They don't stay mum and adjust. They are very vocal about what they're okay with and what they're not okay with. So I think if you keep that as your basic guideline, you should be fine. All right, there are lots of questions around props and very specific instances. All right, there's one about my editing style again and the kind of actions we use. So we have our own actions, and if you sign up for our editing videos that we have on the Learn account, you will be getting access to see our entire workflow. All right, are we done with the questions? Anything else? I saw a repeated question from someone about the softbox I use. That is very public information. It's on all of my videos, my YouTube videos and my IGTV videos and all my BTS videos, right? Which is, I use an Excel umbrella from Profoto. I have two kinds. One is the white umbrella as well as the black umbrella with the white coating. So I switch between the two based on the kind of shot I'm trying to recreate. Hold on. So I think what we're going to do is that we've shared a lot of information with you today, and while this video may be available for you to watch later, we're also going to send you an email to everyone who's registered for today's session, and we're going to give you sort of a rundown on everything we've discussed, as well as a link to our platforms, so you can take a look at the products I've spoken about and the workshops as well. Another repeated question I'm getting. Sorry, I'm taking a little longer than planned, but I want to help answer this last one. What DSLR would you recommend? Now, this is a repetitive question apparently. Okay, I'm sorry I missed that earlier, but I use a Sony, and I am vouching for a Sony because of one, the reliability, two, its capability to move really fast with me, because when I'm working with kids who are running or in motion, I want a camera that has a really high performance. It has to work in tandem with the lens to give me that performance. So I prefer the Sony for that reason. I also love it because it has a really nice IAF tracking system, so which means when I lock focus on a subject, and if the subject moves, my focus moves along with them and I don't lose focus. And I hate missing my focus when I'm taking a shot of a child moving. It frustrates me, and I've never had that problem with the Sony, so I would never switch out of it for these reasons. Also, it's high ISO capabilities, because I do shoot a lot of lifestyle shoots in clients' houses, and sometimes there's just not enough natural light, and in those situations I bump up my ISO, and I know it doesn't affect my pictures as much. The little grain that appears I can manage, but for the most part there hardly is too much noise or grain that appears. So those are the reasons I would suggest looking at Sony. And this is not a sponsored ad or a promotion. It's because I genuinely like the cameras, and I really would vouch for them in that manner. I'm using the A7R IV, but the next best bet would be the A7R III for me. All right, I'm going to see if there's any last questions, and we will end with this. Soumya Vijay is asking me, does your Level Up workshop, is that enough to start my studio as a newborn photographer? No, the Level Up workshop focuses on children between 0 to 12, but it does not focus on newborn specifically, because newborn photography is quite an ocean by itself, and you will need to go through a newborn photography workshop for that one. But you can definitely work with children of all the other age groups. That's for sure, because it covers a lot more than just working with children. It's about how your entire customer workflow works, how your entire process works, the business of the child photography also is involved there. Interestingly enough, no one's really asked about newborn photography as a career-related questions here. All right. When am I starting the live workshops for newborns? Our in-person newborn photography workshop is in Feb 20th. It's a Saturday, and we will be opening registrations for it by end of day. The newborn safety certificate, so I know Kelly Brown offers a newborn safety certificate online, but I think if you attend a newborn photography workshop, that itself will give you a newborn safety certificate, because it teaches you everything you need to know as a newborn photographer. All right, I think we're good for today. I think I've rambled on for the last 1 hour, and I hope this was helpful to all of you here. Thank you all for signing up. I'm sorry about the last minute move or shift from Zoom to Instagram Live, but there were so many of you, we couldn't just limit it to just 300. So thank you for migrating platforms to be a part of the session today. And Deepa, no, I don't have a newborn photography workshop happening in Bangalore yet. We will let you know about that, but for now you can come to Chennai, because we have everything set up here beautifully, and we look forward to welcoming you there. All right, okay, I'm done. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all of you being a part of this, and thanks to my team, Sana Akshita, for helping out with all of this. Any other questions, you know, we're an email away or a DM away, so feel free to keep in touch, and stay tuned with the Learn account for all the workshop updates and new product updates. Thanks guys, I'll see you soon. Bye.